Greetings, indie warriors, and welcome back to I Dream of Indie Games. My name is Barely Magic Mike, and today I'll be giving you my hands-on impressions of City Tales Medieval Era, which you can probably tell by name alone is a medieval city builder. City Tales Medieval Era is slated to head into early access on May 22nd of this year, but in advance of that is being featured in Steam's City Builder and Colony Simfest beginning March 24th, giving you a chance to try its uniquely cozy simulation prior to the early access launch. But before I get too far into the nitty-gritty of this old-timey city, I want to extend a hearty thanks to Irregular Shapes for sponsoring this video. Irregular Shapes is a French studio for whom City Tales Medieval Era is a debut title, developed by them and published by the fine folks at Firesquid. Just a reminder that at I Dream of Indie Games, we will always let you know when a video is sponsored, and accordingly, while I will be breaking down my impressions of City Tales based on my time with the Steam demo, this is not a full review, as the game is still actively being developed in preparation for its early access launch. But as always, you'll be getting my honest opinion on what I played, at least ever since that witch cast a curse on me that shrinks my manhood every time I lie. If anyone knows a cure for that, please let me know in the comments below, because it's only a matter of time before someone asks me about my browser history. Alright, on to the game. I have a long, sordid history of playing hard to get with most city builders I come across. It's actually one of my favorite genres, but you wouldn't think that from the fact that I almost never play them anymore, because frankly speaking, these games take up an ungodly amount of time, and many of them come with a learning curve demanding enough to make me wonder if I'll be issued some sort of degree upon completion. And in the rare cases I'm swept off my feet and do dedicate that time, 1 hour can become 2 hours, can become 12 hours, and suddenly I'm having my morning coffee at what still feels to me like 10 p.m. And yet, intimidated as I was booting up the demo for City Tales, what I found was a city builder with surprisingly cozy vibes that took very little time to learn without sacrificing some of the needed complexity to keep it interesting. The demo itself includes a detailed tutorial, over 40 buildings to craft, and a substantial chunk of gameplay that lets you use the game's bespoke district drawing tool, interact with the early game's various companions, tinker with the inner workings of the game's economy, and even use the built-in photo mode to take and share pictures of your thriving settlement. The full early access launch will expand on this content with over 50 different types of resources, over 60 types of buildings, and much more. Upon starting a new game in City Tales, you'll be greeted with a vast stretch of barren but vibrantly green land ready to be settled by your guiding hand. You'll begin by creating a shelter, and this will be your first introduction to City Tales' unique freeform districting tool. Rather than being restricted by placing individual structures in places where they fit or along roadsides, City Tales Medieval Era allows you to click on any open tract of land to begin placing poles that will outline the shape of a district. Upon completing the shape to your heart's content, you'll then be able to drag the various poles placed if you want to fine-tune the boundaries of your new district before confirming its placement on the land. The game will tell you how many shelters doing this will allow for, depending on the size and shape of your district, and villagers will automatically spring up in each. However, each district you create isn't just meant to house your population, but also the various taverns, smithies, churches, wells, markets, or other civil services that members of your medieval city will definitely want to be near. Certain structures, like a stone quarry or woodcutter's cabin, will have predefined boundaries that you lay out wherever the relevant resources exist, but these are generally the minority. Many utilities and services will need to be placed within an existing district, sometimes to the detriment of someone who already lives there, but what can you do? At which point, the game will decide for you where in the district to place it. This feels less in the service of restricting the player, though, than it is to keep things relatively simple and the pacing reasonably brisk. In a similar spirit, there are no paths or roads the player needs to manually place. Rather, paths will automatically generate around the structures you create in whichever way is the most efficient. Which district you decide to place any given structure in will matter significantly too, because anytime you click on a shelter, you'll see a list of requirements necessary in order to upgrade it and earn some money in the process. For example, a level 1 shelter might require a number of wooden planks, rope, berries, fish, and meat, as well as proximity to a market and a church in order to be upgraded to a level 2 shelter and earn some money from doing so. These requirements will vary by the needs of the shelter's occupants, so careful optimization around where you place each building will be necessary to keep the upgrades coming. Naturally, you'll also need to familiarize yourself with the in-game economy, which consists of a huge number of resources to track that could easily become overwhelming if not for the game's surprisingly elegant user interface. Along the top of your screen at any given time, you'll see a wide variety of resources shown, each with various subtypes where applicable. For example, upon hovering over the meat category, you'll see a variety of animal products and byproducts like venison, fish, milk, etc. At any given moment, you can select which one you want to display at the top of the screen, and it'll show you how many of each resource you currently have, as well as if your supply of it is actively increasing or decreasing, allowing you to plan and construct accordingly. There are even handy diagrams for more complex resources like tiles, showing you the entire production chain that starts with mining clay and ends with building a tile to process it into tiles you can use to upgrade the roofs on each shelter. Production chains certainly get more complex than that, but I really appreciated that information on how to set them up is readily available and easily organized. The various build menus at the bottom of the screen are also quite easy to navigate and allow you to build a growing variety of structures as the needs of your populace expand. What starts as mines and logging camps and tileries will expand to theaters and taverns and upgraded versions of existing facilities. But the menus and submenus around building are intuitively organized, with the resources required for each type of building clearly outlined and simple to keep track of. In this sense, it feels like City Tales Medieval Era is positioning itself to be a comfortable middle ground between a city building game and something more cozy and relaxing. While I appreciate the challenge that many city builders bring to the genre, they can often be very stressful and result in a failure state that can mean losing hours of progress. By contrast, the challenges that City Tales offered in its demo are relatively light and not time sensitive. When you don't have enough money for a certain type of construction, you can always construct additional districts, upgrade existing shelters, and expand your settlement in other ways, making it so there's always something to do and rarely a reason to just sit around and wait. Accordingly, the lack of time pressure or any sort of strict approval rating from your villagers threatening to spiral downward allows you to take City Tales at your own pace and enjoy watching your settlement blossom. In this sense, more hardcore city builder fans might find what's here to be a bit too forgiving as far as consequences are concerned, but many are likely to find its variety of complex production chains an interesting challenge in and of themselves. It's worth noting that lack of gold currency was a pretty frequent occurrence in my time with the demo, but this is the intention of the developer for now to give experienced players a more interesting challenge. The final game will have several different game modes that will allow players to tweak the level of challenge depending on the experience experience that they want. The way that City Tales' companion system works is also in service of streamlining things from its genre ilk, and was a welcome change to some of the micromanagement I've seen in city builders like it. While your population will quickly grow into the hundreds or thousands, you'll have a discrete number of companions who you'll send to take charge of the woodcutter's cabin, the tilery, the quarry, or any other service that needs it. But rather than having to juggle your limited number of companions between an ever-growing variety of needs, like a stressed-out bartender being understaffed on $5 margarita night, your companions will actively work to apprentice other members of the population and upgrade the building until it's completely autonomous, at which point you don't need a companion assigned to it at all. So if you create a new structure and need to assign a companion to get it working, it won't be long before you can assign that same companion elsewhere and not worry that the building they leave will collapse under the weight of capitalistic inefficiency. For a demo of an early access game, I also found surprisingly few bugs. There was a situation when a shelter wouldn't upgrade without a nearby trading post, which happened to be right across the street and for some reason not registering as such. Either that or those particular villagers were a bit too lazy for their own good, and the performance gets a bit sluggish at times, especially when zooming into your city's finer details. But naturally, this is an early build of an early access game that still has about 2 months until launch, so there's plenty of time to get another layer of polish applied. City Tales Medieval Era's visual aesthetic is bright and cartoony, not to be compared to the detailed realism of the likes of Manor Lords or anything like it. You can watch your villagers hustling and bustling about along roadways or constructing new buildings by zooming in a bit, but to be honest, I do hope that some of the animations and pathfinding for villagers and animals gets additional work during the early access period. As it stands, the visuals are charming and colorful and give off the relaxing vibes they intend to, but it can be easy to notice an animal turning around with a janky animation, or a villager walking right through a wall into a building rather than through the front door. Nothing that impacts the game's playability, of course, but something that I'd like to see as an immersion-enhancing element to add as the game's development progresses. Similarly, I quite like the soundtrack of City Tales so far, but would look forward to Irregular Shapes adding more music to avoid some of the more repetitive soundtrack loops. But for what's here, City Tales already has a nice presentation that does a great job of building up some cozy vibes while maintaining a priority of substance over style. Overall, City Tales Medieval Era's demo gives me a lot to be excited about. This is a deeply accessible experience that hides surprising depth up its sleeve while making clear direction and an easy-to-use interface a core tenet of its design. I look forward to seeing more from City Tales Medieval Era as it gets closer to its early access launch, and once again, want to extend a huge thank you to Irregular Shapes for sponsoring this video and helping to bring more honest indie coverage to all of our fantastic indie warriors. The demo for City Tales Medieval Era is now available on Steam, so if you enjoy city builders and would like to play one a bit on the cozier side, don't forget to download and give the demo a try during the Steam City Builder and Colony Sim Fest. And do remember to wishlist if you enjoy it, as that's always something that helps indie developers out. Thank you all for watching, and keep it here on I Dream of Indie Games for lots more coverage on all the indie games you have yet to discover.
For far too long, you, the gamer, have been denied honest gaming coverage. Indie developers and publishers have lost their voice, but no longer. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames to join this epic campaign for indie visibility. The echo chamber trembles as our message grows louder. Voice to the voiceless!